This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Smells like bliss in the studio. I think I overdid it. I'll be right back. Dr. Shealy, I overdid it. Oh man, jeez, I can taste it already. I can taste it already. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked, overblissed. Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USAPrepares.com, broadcasting 2 hours daily from high atop the Missouri Ozark Mountains. Studio A. Information's on the website, and you may listen live. USAPrepares.com, your source for information that you can use. Tom's producing the broadcast at GCN. Converging threats are confronted daily by your instructors. I'm Vincent Finelli. Dr. Norman Shealy's with us. It's great to have you back, Dr. Shealy.
Hey, always good to be back.
Dr. Shealy, I understand you were busy last week, and you had a whole bunch of students that you were training at your institute. Can you share with us what
we
you were
had
doing?
28. It was one of my largest classes here. And it was fun, tiring, of course, because but good people and a great success, I think.
Well, I didn't read about it on the news, so obviously the police weren't there.
Well, thanks to my men had a sign.
So, Dr. Shealy, what did you train? Did you train in the rings, the sacred rings?
Well, I did actually 2 days on the sacred rings for certification, as well as 3 days before that on the wider field of energy medicine. We cover all of the aspects of energy medicine that I think are proven scientifically and ready for clinical use.
Very fascinating. I can tell you, Dr. Shealy, just before the broadcast on Monday, we got calls in the studio from some of your students who were looking for your institute. And so they're calling us about 80 miles away, 60 to 80 miles away. And I think one of them was from Australia. Is that right?
Yes, I had one from Australia and one from London.
Okay, well, I guess it was I think it was those guys that called for directions, and that's really neat. And of course, one of the wives of one of our instructors was there training with you. So that's really, really fascinating. Now, once they're certified in this, what will they do, or what can they do if they choose to?
Well, really, in the future, I want to be sure that Babette sends out the map and directions for the students, because we did have a couple who got here a little late, but they all got here.
Mm-hmm. So what can they do with their certification once they have it?
This is for people who want to use this with clients. Mm-hmm. And basically, it's primarily for people who already have some type of clinical practice. They might be acupuncturists, they might be massage therapists, counselors of some kind, and the rings have significant additional benefit by activating these specific acupuncture points. Actually, there's 60 different acupuncture points. Now, each ring has 13 points, except one has only 12. And so they all, interact, and we can, for instance, we have probably the most clinically widely possible benefit is ring of crystal, which reduces free radicals 80%. Vincent, there's nothing in the world that's ever been that effective in reducing free radicals. Now, for those who don't know what free radicals are, those are the things that ultimately age us, rust our bodies, and kill us. They are the negative effects of excess oxygen that doesn't have a home, so to speak. And so it damages cells, it kills cell walls. And so we can reduce that just with this one little 30-second application of a mixture of oils called Crystal Bliss. We can reduce that by 80%. We've got people over a year now who've kept their free radicals 80% reduced. Now, theoretically, that's an 80% help to your overall health and longevity.
And would a person be able to use it the way I do, just, one drop between the thumb and
it probably will not reduce free radicals quite nearly as well if you just put it on the Hoku point. Your sense of olfaction, your olfactory sense is highly advanced. So you get a good event or experience from air bliss just by sniffing it, so to speak, or smelling it.
Yeah.
But most people need to put it on the 13 points.
Well, I can tell you that I must have sacrificed a lot of other senses to have this one so advanced.
I've always thought my sense of smell was excellent, but it doesn't come close to yours.
Well, I sacrificed memory and IQ for that. Dr. Shealy, one of the things that I wanted to share with you, have you heard of Aaron Brummett? He's a pastor in Springfield. He's been preaching downtown, and he's got a soapbox and a little PA system, and he's been doing it for quite a while. And recently, he's been arrested, and Springfield police, the same guys that I seem to draw attention from, have arrested him, and he's out now, and he's going to be joining us. So he's qualified to be one of us. He's been arrested.
Oh,
so
he
I was
must
talking.
be saying something good.
Well, he is. He's just preaching. It's not like he's got a bullhorn that he's really tearing up the streets with and driving everybody crazy. But he's downtown Springfield, and he's just preaching what he believes is the truth. And although I've never been part of his assembly, if you will, and although I'm not a good Catholic because I don't go to Mass every Sunday, I support his right to preach from the streets if that's what he wants to do. I mean, we don't arrest the cops because they ride around in circles and in circles and circles and circles around town picking on people. Maybe we should. Because,
well, my basic philosophy, all government is evil, some is more so. And the most evil in this country today is, of course, sitting straight in the center of Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm. One of your students was at the farmhouse about a week ago, and she was saying, indicating that Vincent. She was saying to my wife that Vincent says some pretty hard-hitting things, and my wife said, Have you heard of mine with Dr. Shealy? Dr. Shealy does the same thing. So, yeah. Dr. Shealy, one of the things that I got a chuckle out of was your email when I said, I sent you an email just for the broadcast saying that let's talk about hygiene. And I was serious about that because, years ago, and I'm talking during the Depression years, the late 1920s into the maybe 1940s, people didn't bathe as frequently as they do today, I believe. I believe that's the case. Because that's what I've heard from people of that era who lived during the Depression. They couldn't. Well, my question to you is there damage that we do to our health by not bathing every day?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question, Vince, because we know that in olden days, so to speak, people didn't bathe long before the Depression, throughout the Middle Ages and before. And you know, other than olfactory sensation, that's a place where I do have an olfactory system that works quite adequately for that particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure it makes a big difference. You know, our skin is absolutely loaded with trillions of bacteria that live on the skin. And as long as they're the ones that we have learned to live with throughout the eons safely, it's probably okay. It's just that, you know, we do produce certain odors as we grow up, especially. And interestingly, there's an old play called The Chocolate Soldier, which was actually a takeoff on De Rosenkavalier. And in there, the lead character is accused, you know, they're saying something about cleanliness, and the woman replies, well, we actually wash our hands once a week. And I think it's the hands that perhaps are the most important, because we tend to touch ourselves all over with our hands, and our hands get dirty. And as a surgeon, of course, we've learned that we need to really essentially sterilize our hands before we go into the operating room, or when we're dealing with patients in the hospital. We need to have very clean hands, and that is critical. As far as bathing the body itself, if it hasn't been exposed to something that's contaminating, if you will, of a negative bacterial or other infectious agent, it probably doesn't matter so much. Now, I have to say that I like to take a bath.
Sure.
In fact, I bathe a minimum of once a day, and sometimes when I've been working out in the garden and get very dirty and dusty, I'll take a shower in the middle of the day and another one before I go to bed. I don't feel as if I can sleep well without a bath.
Right. When we come back, let's talk a little bit more about this, because, Dr. Shealy, I'd like to know your thoughts on, you know, back in the 1800s, the early 1800s, we didn't have the radioactivity in the air. We didn't have the automobile toxins. We didn't have the smokestacks. We didn't have the power plants. We didn't have Fukushima and Chernobyl. We come back. Dr. Shealy's with us, as he is almost every Wednesday right here on Genesis Communications Network for 2 hours. Dr. Shealy is a world-famous medical doctor, surgeon of the year, author of over 29 books, many periodicals, and I'm just delighted to have you with us, Dr. Shealy. Dr. Shealy, when we're talking about bathing, what I was thinking is, over the years, over the decades, the centuries, pollution has increased. Airborne pollution and all kinds of pollution, every form of pollution. And so I'm thinking about Fukushima with the radiation in the air, and Fukushima is now being discussed as a extinguishing event. It could extinguish life on the planet as we know it. So when we bathe, should we bathe more often than, you know, some people every couple of days? As people get older, they don't seem to want to bathe as often. But should we bathe more than, you know, every 2 days? And how? Shower versus bathtub.
Well, you know, again, I don't think you can wash radioactivity off your skin, as far as I know. And again, I'm not sure it matters how you bathe, as long as you bathe in clean water and use some kind of soap. Actually, my favorite is to soak in a tub, regular bathtub, of hot water, to which I add magnesium chloride crystals. And I do that, Vincent, probably a minimum of 5 days a week, even in the summer. At the end of the day, 20 minutes of soaking in that hot, wonderful, relaxing, water just is totally rejuvenating.
Mm-hmm.
And now if you really want a lot of energy after a hot soak, you actually then shower in cold water.
Ooh.
And that energizes. If you don't shower in cold water, you need a 20-minute rest to cool off. But if you want more energy, you take a cold shower. But there are days, once or twice a week, occasionally, when I just don't want to take the extra 20 minutes, so then I shower.
Mm-hmm.
And I tend to say I like Irish Spring soap, and I realize, some people don't like the soaps that have the antibacterial thing, but I just happen to like I've used Irish Spring soap for 30-some-odd years.
Mm-hmm.
But I think lye soap is great. I think any real soap is really good. And it just feels right to me. And, of course, I have so little hair, and it's so short anyway, that I always actually, wash my whole head as well. Now, if you have a significant head of hair, like you, and some people still have hair, then shampooing, because it takes so much longer to dry hair, some people don't shampoo but once or twice a week.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Shealy, I get a lot of questions. People ask me if I dye my hair, and the answer is no, I don't. And I don't know why they ask me that, but since you triggered that thought, when you said you use Octagon, or not Octagon, you use lye soap, or that's okay with you?
Good old-fashioned lye soap is a real soap.
Yes.
And it's one of the best. It's a pure product.
Okay. I heard that that a deficiency of copper would cause a person's hair to whiten. Is that true?
Yeah, there are all kinds of comments on that without as much proof as I would like. Some people, like pantothenic acid, they believe that using extra pantothenic acid can prevent your hair from turning gray. It is partially nutrition and hugely genetic. I mean, my mother died at age 97, and her hair was gray, but not white.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's fascinating. Now, both of my sons, who are now, one is 52 and one will soon be 50, both of them have, not more than one or two gray hairs at age 50s, and so they're obviously going to fall. They've also not lost any hair.
Interesting. And does that come from their grandfather?
But theoretically, it comes from the mother's father.
Mother's father.
Yeah, that's what some people believe, that the tendency to balding comes from the mother's father.
Dr. Shealy, now I'll be right back, and I'm going to ask him about Octagon soap and acne when we come back. Dr. Norm Shealy, normshealy.com. Dr. Norman Shealy's with us. Dr. Norman Shealy, get to his website, normshealy.com. Norm as in Norman, NORMSHEALY.com. And you can sign up for his free newsletter. Comes out several times a week, and I just got one this morning. So if you'd like to get your free copy, just go to normshealy.com. By the way, that email address that you provide to get the newsletter does not go anywhere. It's not like some of those expos that will give you free tickets to an expo, and they're associated with FEMA and CERT and government agencies. It's not like that. Those email addresses don't go anywhere. They stay with Dr. Norman Shealy. Dr. Shealy, when I was younger in the 1970s, there was this thought that for acne, as adolescents would see the appearance of acne, that they could help minimize some of the effects of the acne by using a brown soap, a lye soap, an Octagon soap, or one of those kinds of soaps. Is there any truth to that? Well,
any kind of soap. It's keeping the face clean that does it. Now, my own experience is that better than soap is actually a spray of Nixol. I have used that. It doesn't work in everybody. Nothing does, of course. My favorite statement is, we can't even decide whether you're dead or alive without going to the Supreme Court. But Nixol sprayed on the face does markedly reduce acne in about 80% of people.
Yeah, and Nixol has a lot of uses. I was starting to get concerned, Dr. Shealy, about Nixol because we're down to maybe a third of a gallon here at the farm, and we use it as a deodorant. We spray it. We spray it on. There's this little bottle that you can get with it, about a 2-ounce spray bottle. We keep it in the kitchen, and sometimes the chickens like to hang out on the back steps right by the kitchen door, and it brings flies. So we just spray the mat with Nixol, and the flies are gone. They don't seem to want to come back for several days. So a lot of uses, and if we get bites by critters, chiggers, ticks, whatever we get bites here on the farm, we spray it with Nixol. So that's what we do, and it seems to work fine for us. So I just want to agree with you there. Dr. Shealy, amalgam fillings. We had the opportunity to meet one of our newest class members. He came to the meetup on Monday, and he's a dentist, and the topic of removal of amalgam fillings came up. And I was talking with Judy Dollarheight about amalgam fillings, and it seems like there might be the need for, if a dentist is going to remove an amalgam filling as an elective procedure by the patient, that a medical prescription is necessary. Is that true?
Not that I know of. My own dentist here in Springfield will remove amalgam fillings on request, and he will even allow the patient to bring in a nurse practitioner to give an IV of vitamin C during the extraction or removal of the silver amalgam, because that cuts down a great deal on the toxicity.
Okay, so an IV. And so can you tell us what the procedure would be from your perspective, and what are the concerns and the risks for having mercury amalgam fillings removed?
My dentist in La Crosse, Wisconsin, convinced me 33 or 4 years ago how toxic mercury silver fillings are. In fact, I think the American Dental Association is as guilty as Monsanto and the tobacco industry in pushing a really, really poisonous, toxic approach that should have been outdated 50 or more years ago. Mm-hmm. Because silver fillings are not silver. They are 50 to 60% mercury. And you leach that poison out of it as long as they're in your mouth, no matter how good you are. Now, some people, because of the pH of the saliva and other things, leach more than others. But it's clearly toxic to the nervous system, to your immune system, especially those two. So I had all 12 of my silver amalgam fillings removed in 1981, I believe. And they were replaced at that time with gold. You can now do it with porcelain or some type of plastic thing. And the procedure to remove them is that you use a rubber dam so that theoretically you don't swallow any of the stuff while it's coming out, and use a vacuum continuously to suck up the mercury fumes, because it vaporizes as they're drilling it out. Mm-hmm. And that is, potentially temporarily more toxic immediately after the procedure. Now, if you're going to have it done, you should be taking probably 5 grams of vitamin C a day for at least a week before and a week or two afterwards. And when you do that, you've also got to increase your B complex, especially B6. So you need about 50 milligrams of a good B complex while you're going through this. But ideally, I would recommend, if it can all be done at one time, even if you have to do it twice, bringing in a nurse practitioner who can give an IV of 100 grams of vitamin C in a Myers cocktail, slowly, IV, because it takes a couple of hours to do this procedure. And to me, it's well worth considering.
Okay, let me see if I've got this right, because I know there are a lot of people paying attention to what you just said. So mercury silver fillings are 50 to 60% mercury. The balance would probably be mostly silver. The mercury is toxic to our nervous system and our immune system, and that you recommend a week before the procedure, if you're going to electively have mercury amalgam fillings or silver amalgam fillings removed, 5 grams of vitamin C the week before. And did you say 1 week after?
Yes.
Okay. And then you also recommended B6 and B complex, 50 milligrams of vitamin B complex, 50 milligrams a day. Is that for the week before and the week after?
Yes. Anytime you're taking an increased amount of vitamin C, you need at least some extra B6.
Okay. Now, is B complex, do we take the B complex and the B6?
Well, I just soon take all of B6. You know, like my essentials, one tablet has 25 milligrams of all the Bs. And so that would be the kind of thing I would recommend.
Okay. That's Shealy's Essentials.
Well, it's got B complex and trace minerals, and you need all of those when you're taking, you know, a lot of supplements. Okay.
And Dr. Shealy, where would you recommend that we get those? Let's say those of us that are in Springfield, who are in Springfield, we can get them at Spring Valley right near Ziggy's. What about the rest of us who are not?
Well, anyone can get it off my website.
NormShealy.com.
NormShealy.com. And as far as the vitamin C is concerned, I particularly like my youth formula, because my youth formula has in it 2 grams for 4 capsules, which is the recommended daily dose, 2 grams of vitamin C and 1 gram of MSM, methylsulfonylmethane. Interestingly, we found that neither MSM nor vitamin C alone helps restore your ability to make DHEA, but when you put the two together, it actually allows you to help your adrenal glands rejuvenate and begin making more DHEA.
So the youth formula, and what is the dosage that you recommend for the youth formula, Dr. Shealy?
Well, in the ordinary circumstances, just 2 twice a day. If I were doing it, I guess I would take at least 4 twice a day if I were going to be getting that silver amalgam filling removed.
Okay. And, you know, I had, I shattered two of my teeth when I bit into, I did something I should not have done. There was a Tootsie Roll Pop in the kitchen, and for some reason, I bit into it. Even more amazing is that I actually started eating it, but that I picked it up in the first place. That's amazing. But I broke 2 fillings, and as a result, I had the mercury amalgam fillings broke off, and that was a good thing. And then Dr. Howard Shayne repaired the 2 teeth that I damaged with that Tootsie Roll Pop. So they're off limits for me. And I used to have a metallic taste in my mouth when I woke up in the morning, and it was right where those fillings were. And I don't have that anymore because he replaced it with a non-amalgam filling. So I actually believe there is electrolysis, as you were talking about previously, and I believe that I was dissolving this mercury and consuming it and poisoning myself.
Exactly. But you know, Vince, when I was growing up, every spring, our family doc recommended a purge with a mercury laxative. I think it was calomel or something like that. And so here, I know I must have gotten it 8 or 10 times growing up. And it causes violent diarrhea, of course, and it is a purge. So we do live despite these toxic things, but I don't recommend it. Now, the other thing is, of course, my mother had me on a large dose of vitamin C, at least 1 gram a day growing up.
You know, Dr. Shealy, when you were talking about the toxicity to the immune system and the nervous system with these mercury fillings, you know, one of the things that came to my mind was Parkinson's disease.
Yeah.
We seem to have more and more nervous system type diseases than I remember as a child. Is that just me, or is it because of things like these mercury fillings and other toxins?
Well, I think it's because of total toxicity and inadequate antioxidants. You see, I think that part of the problem is that most people, a majority, don't take any or at least enough of the normal antioxidants that we need more of because of all the poisons around us. For instance,
I'll tell you what. Why don't you hold that thought,
right,
Dr. Shealy? Oh. We certainly have enough breaks, don't we? Jeez. Tom hit the button, and we're going into a break. Dr. Norman Shealy's with us. We're going to be talking about antioxidants. He's going to tell us why we need to pay attention to antioxidants because of our environment. Dr. Norm Shealy. That's really neat. During the breaks, I get a chance to listen to some of our commercials, and I just heard the one for Terraganics. Eric Lancaster's been on the air with us. He's a senior vice president of Terraganics, and he's been to the Get Prepared Expo. So it just reminded me of Eric Lancaster. I'm going to give him a call after the broadcast, and we'll get him back on the air. Dr. Norman Shealy's with us, and we're talking about antioxidants. Dr. Shealy, please share with us our need to pay attention to antioxidants and why it's so important.
Well, there are three major categories of standard antioxidants that we should all be taking. One of those is vitamin C, and that I prefer with my youth formula because it has the MSM with it. Second is beta-carotene or vitamin A. Actually, I much prefer astaxanthin, ASTAXANTHIN. I think it is just absolutely crucial. And the third is vitamin E, and there I strongly prefer Sunset, the Kyani Sunset, which is the tocotrienol form of vitamin E, which is much more powerful than the tocopherol form of vitamin E. You need all three of those. If you take one of them without the others, you only get about a fourth of the benefit from that particular one because they actually are synergistic. They sort of help repair each of them as it is being used by the body. Now, there are other categories that you can take, but there I prefer to get those out of fruits, mostly fruits and vegetables. You know, the one thing that's missing most from the diets of the majority of people is adequate fruits and vegetables. Mm-hmm. The average American consumes 2.2 servings a day. You need, just to stay as reasonably healthy, 5 servings a day, and I get 7 or 8 every day of my life. I have to admit, the majority of mine are fruit. I prefer fruit to most vegetables, but I get at least 2, and most days 3 servings of vegetables, plus then 4 or 5 of fruit. They are loaded with anthocyanins and polyphenols and other wonderful antioxidants that I think you get best out of eating adequate fruits and vegetables.
Dr. Shealy, when you said the average American gets 2.2 servings of fruits and vegetables, from what I've seen, a lot of people aren't average. I mean, they get way less than that. I mean, open a can, and if you're talking about if they have a can of vegetable soup, if that would count as vegetables, okay.
It
but
doesn't count. No, if it, you have to agree that when things have, even home canning, destroys most vitamins. Mm-hmm. So,
and that's why I'm saying 2.2. I don't think we even get 2.2. I mean, if we're counting canned peaches, and if we're counting the lunches that children get in school where they have 2 tablespoons of fruit that comes out of a can, if we count that, and if we count those green beans,
you're right.
Yeah, and if we count those green beans that they count as a vegetable that have no nutrition in them at all, yeah, okay, then maybe we have 2.2. But
yeah, I don't count those. I definitely and ketchup is not a vegetable.
Well, according to I was in a meeting with a school principal, an elementary school principal in Virginia, and he pulled out this ketchup packet of ketchup, and he said this is the kind he likes because it doesn't have as much vinegar, but they're reserved for the teachers because the children get the ones with the most amount of vinegar in the packets of ketchup. And he said, now this is considered by the state a vegetable, a packet of ketchup. Seriously. So what you were saying, in jest, is actually fact. Ketchup is a vegetable, according to some of the states for the school lunches.
That's right. Well, French fried potatoes are not, our fried potatoes are not a vegetable either.
Dr. Norman Shealy is with us. We're going to come back, and I've got so many questions, so many medical questions. I'd like to talk about knees predicting the weather. We have that a post on our website about how you can predict the weather, and we have since 4000 BC. Hippocrates talked about it. And also, why do we have beer bellies? We'll be right back.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? This is hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com with Dr. Norman Shealy. And you can go to his website, normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. Dr. Shealy, even 400 BC, Hippocrates noticed that there were some seasonal illnesses. And one of them is like rheumatism, where the dampness and the pressure change seems to affect the joints. And I remember people saying when, the elders back in the 1950s and 60s would say, it's going to rain. I can tell because I can feel it in my joints. What do you think about that?
Oh, there's no question. Now, not everybody, of course, is sensitive to that, like anything else.
Right.
But there's no question some migraineurs, some patients who have migraine, can tell you up to 24 hours in advance whether a storm is coming or a major barometric pressure change because they have a migraine. And we're all unique and individual in many, many respects. And certainly any place where we have inflammation in the body may flare up when their barometric pressure changes. No doubt, no question.
That's fascinating. So it's not just folklore. It's actually, there's actually truth in that. Arthritis showing signs of more pain because of the cold and dampness. And I've heard many people say, "Geez, I can't do it today. It's the weather." And I think, what's the weather have to do with it? And they'd say, "Well, no, it's I heard I ache when it's like this outside." So that's fascinating. Dr. Shealy, you mentioned migraines, and I met a fascinating man at your house, and he is a specialist. I believe he has a clinic for migraine headaches.
That's true, Dr. Roger Cady.
Yeah, Roger Cady. Do we know what causes migraines?
Well, again, it's a unique and individual thing. We know that something like somewhere between 15 and 17% of people women have migraines, and about half that of men. So it's partly estrogenically or related to the difference in hormones. It's also highly genetically oriented, although not specifically. There are people who can have a migraine just when exposed to monosodium glutamate at a Chinese restaurant, where you get a bigger dose than you do in most of the junk foods, except the fast food restaurant, of course. But and so it is a unique and individual thing, and it is, in my opinion, a disturbance in the fire energy from an acupuncture point of view. It is largely a disturbance in the fire energy of the body. Now, the fire energy is essentially the entire endocrine system, but most especially the adrenal glands.
So if we experience migraines, and I don't know if I've ever had what some people refer to as a migraine. I've had headaches, of course, but I don't think I've ever experienced excruciating, can't move, can't think, can't do anything kinds of headache. What can we do about it, Dr. Shealy? Is there a treatment?
Well, there are all kinds of good treatments for migraine that work exceptionally well. Dr. Elmer Green in 1971 or 2 introduced temperature biofeedback as a control mechanism for migraine. 80% of people who will learn to control the temperature in their fingertips, which is easy to do. It just takes a little work, initially. 80% will totally obliterate migraines. 80% of people who do autogenic training will bring migraines under control. It's a retraining of the sympathetic nervous system. A number of other things can help, including we could get 75% of them markedly improved with Ring of Fire.
Okay, the Ring of Fire. So if we have a migraine headache, are you saying apply the Fire Bliss to the acupuncture points?
Yes.
On your map?
Instantly, right at the onset.
Okay. And what is the frequency that you see that it works, or what percentage of those that you
Well, it works in at least
this?
75% of people instantly.
Wow. Okay, so that's Fire Bliss on the acupuncture points. And if they decide they want that, they can get it at your website, normshealy.com?
Right.
Okay. And they'll get the map as to where, the map of the body as to where to apply it? Okay. Dr. Shealy, how do we control the temperature of our fingertips with our mind?
Mentally. You can.
Do I just say?
In the old days, even you may be barely old enough to remember that insurance companies especially used to send out little calendars at the end of the year that had a thermometer on them.
Oh, absolutely.
You can buy those little thermometers, and they're adequate for temperature biofeedback training, and you very gently tape one of them with some Scotch tape to the index finger of your dominant hand, and you just take a recording of what it is. Now, in a healthy person, the temperature of your fingers will be in a normal room of 70 to 72 degrees, somewhere between 85 and 90 degrees.
Okay.
And so you record that, and then you don't look at the thermometer again, and you spend at least 5 minutes just repeating with every breath, my right hand, it must be being right hand, my right hand is warm. My right hand is warm. And imaging the sun beaming down upon your hand. After 5 minutes or so, look at the thermometer, and if you've raised it at all, you know you're going to succeed. Now, some people are terribly, anxious, and they're going to take a lot longer, and they can't wait 5 minutes to look again, and they're going to interfere with the results, because if they stare at it while doing this, the temperature will go down. It is an overactivity of the sympathetic, the adrenaline system. But if you do that just 5 minutes a day for a week or 10 days, then at the very onset of a headache, all you have to do is close your eyes and say the words a few times and imagine the sun beaming down, and you turn off the headache. It's so simple.
let me ask you this, Dr. Shealy. If that works, is there something that we can do to improve our memory?
Well, the most important thing for improving memory, of course, is to eat a wide variety of real food and exercise physically. And use your mind, not in some dull, unbelievably useless, stupid, robot-making television and game-watching thing. Mm-hmm. But use your mind to read and to study and to learn.
Well, Dr. Shealy, I've made it a practice to, when I hear a new advertiser on Genesis Communications Network, if an advertiser shows up on this broadcast, I'll call them and I'll talk to the CEO, and we'll get to know each other, because I want to make sure that I know who they are and they know who I am. And I was talking to one of our newest advertisers last night. I was talking to the CEO, and he was explaining to me that his research shows that people don't want to read. They don't want to read blogs. They don't want to read material. They'd rather look at pictures and learn from pictures. And I find that while I believe that he's right in that respect, I believe it's not a good thing, because if we're looking at pictures, are we really expanding our mind? Are we really expanding our vocabulary? Are we really increasing our ability to think and decipher and to engineer and to imagine and to create? What are your thoughts on that, Dr. Shealy?
I've been saying for at least 45 years that someday we're going to do autopsies on the brains of people who've spent their lives on television and find a great big hunk of the brain missing because it wasn't used adequately. Watching television destroys, essentially, your ability to make images. Radio, of course, you have to make your own images. So listening can help memory to some extent. Reading, I think, even more so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have found, Dr. Shealy, before I was broadcasting, I found that my vocabulary had decreased markedly from what it used to be, because I was out there just talking to the cows, I was just doing my thing, talking with the farm animals, and, I didn't need to use an extensive lexicon with them. I could, cattle call's pretty simple.
Well, there has been for many years the old use it or lose it thing.
And it's absolutely true, isn't it?
Anything, whether it's math or vocabulary, music, all of it, it does have to be revisited at some kind of, frequency in order to remember it and use it well.
Dr. Shealy, when as a medical doctor, can you share with us what the thoughts from your side of the equation are when you meet a person, a new patient, for the first time? And I'm thinking just generically, no specific patient in mind. I'm thinking generically over the entire series of decades of your practice. When you meet a new patient for the first time, when we come back, can we address what are the thoughts that go through your mind, the series of discernments that you make with that person, and can you tell the general health just by looking? Dr. Norman Shealy, when we get back, we'll talk about that, if that's okay with you. I'm Vin Finelli. This is USAPrepares.com. Dr. Norman Shealy's with us. Dr. Shealy, we have a call. Oh, we had a caller. She just dropped off from Canada. When you meet a patient for the first time, when a medical doctor meets a patient for the first time, what thoughts go through the doctor's mind? What is the doctor trying to determine? Let's just make this a general practitioner's visit. Can you share with us what the thoughts are? And maybe we as patients could help that process, since doctors time allotments for meeting with us is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. How can we help, and what is the doctor trying to determine?
Well, of course, on the first hand, for at least 40-some-odd years, except in a true emergency situation, I would never schedule a new patient for less than an hour. And under almost all circumstances, a return patient for 30 minutes. So that's at the top of my list because I don't feel as if I can adequately evaluate a new patient safely and accurately any other way. In addition, I've developed, again, 35, almost 40 years ago, several little evaluation tools that I use before the patient comes in, or that I have them fill out while they're in the waiting room. And that includes looking at a total symptom index, looking at a total life stress test, looking at a screening test for depression. By doing those 3 tests in about 3 minutes, I can save another 20 minutes of questions that I would have to ask the patient. So even with those, I still spend an hour with a new patient because otherwise you're grasping at straws. You might as well throw the dice to try to make an answer in 7 minutes, which some physicians spend. And even in I like to spend at least, even with those tests, 20 minutes or more reviewing the history, ask them questions about how they filled out those tests, and then do a complete examination. And then, in my mind, I determine what are the options, what are the possible approaches, which I then outline to the patient. Now, most physicians don't do this. And there's no question that intuitively, physicians often make decisions and even under almost all circumstances, which way you go with your questioning and your further testing is an intuitive experience. In fact, Irving Page, one of the great physician writers back in the 70s, wrote an article called Intuition in Medical Practice. And it is part of our ability to be accurate. So, but you look at the patient's face, you look at their hands, you can see those almost always while you're talking to them. And there are clues that you get depending upon, of course, I happen to see energy around people. So the energy surrounding person tells me if they're depressed, if they're angry, sometimes if they're really very, very sick, that kind of thing. And the color of the skin and the color of the nails, all of these things are influences in helping us make decisions.
Wow. And Dr. Shealy, I have seen your questionnaire. It's not just 1 page, it's not 2 pages, it's many pages. And the print isn't all that large. So, there are a lot of questions that you ask your patients to determine their background, their pain level, their outlook, their general health, what they think their general health is. Dr. Shealy, I've never seen anything like that. Normally, it's your name, your social security number, your insurance company, and a waiver or a release. That's it. But what you've talked about, I think, is truly, truly remarkable in the medical profession. So you can tell general health by looking at a person's face?
Oh, yes.
What are some of the signs that you look for?
Well, the color of the skin. Some people have pale skin or even grayish-colored skin. How bright the eyes are. How much they're frowning. All of these things influence my thinking and my questioning of the patient. Posture
and depression. Is there a correlation? We come back.
Bet.
I'd like to ask you about the relationship between posture and depression, and also why did the doctor always look in my ears? Stick out my tongue and look in my ears. We'll be right back. Hey, Tom, I don't have the return. I didn't get the return, class, so that's one of the things that... See, I fly by the sound. I've got an atomic clock in front of me, but I don't fly by that as well as I probably should. I fly by the audio prompting, which is the introduction, the outroduction. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us. And, Dr. Shealy, I just want to announce, I just got an email during the break. We have another affiliate that picked up USA Prepares, WEZO, Augusta, Georgia. I want to thank you so much for joining us and allowing us to be on your air in Augusta, Georgia. WEZO. Thanks so much for being part of USAPrepares.com. Just happened, Dr. Shealy. So, and by the way, we're going to be broadcasting on WEZO in Augusta, Georgia, 11 to 1. That's drive time, noon drive time. So thank you so much for being with us. Dr. Shealy, we were talking about depression, and we were talking about that you can see the correlation between depression and posture. Please share that with us.
Well, the shoulders tend to sort of drop, and the head tends to be somewhat forward. That's, it's just a sense that you get very quickly when you see someone. Interestingly, by the way, 98% of all people with headaches, migraine and otherwise, have very bad posture in the upper thoracic, chest, and neck. So it affects not just mood, but it affects the probability of having headaches. It's posture is a major contributor. I mean, I often, first thing when I see people, even not patients, I often put my hand on their shoulders. Say, may I just show you how you're standing? Your chest is behind your buttocks. That puts a tremendous strain on the low back. That's another common one. Increased lordosis, that is sway back, puts a tremendous strain on the entire spine. I mean, after all, when you're not lying down, your spine is supporting this entire body. And postural abnormalities create muscle spasm, they create pain, they can begin to even damage the organs inside your body because of poor posture. I mean, everybody is, I'm sure, aware of someone who's got severe scoliosis. That's a curvature to the side instead of backwards. And people who've got significant scoliosis, as they mature, past the age of 50 especially, they often have increasing problems with both the lungs and the heart because of really horrible posture.
Well, I talked to a surgeon in Springfield about that, and the repair for that is putting two rods up and just ripping the back apart, putting two stainless steel rods in. It seems like a horrible repair, and then the back can't move at all.
Well, that, of course, is, in my opinion, most of the time not necessary if it's addressed early in childhood. My daughter had scoliosis when she was, 11 or so, and the orthopedist, of course, would have put her in a brace and then eventually would have fused her spine. I took her to an excellent chiropractor. He saw her once a week for a month or two and then once a month for a year, and that brought her scoliosis under control, and that can be done if it started before the big growth.
Do you have a recommendation for a chiropractor in the Springfield community?
Well, I would see Ed Douglas. He's actually an osteopathic physician. And so, I mean, Ed is the only what I call real DO in Springfield. It means he still does osteopathic manipulative therapy. And so I would start with him.
Okay. Dr. Shealy, I just found a post on the website. The federal government is studying how to use Twitter, a social media platform, to study depression. They are actually doing depression surveillance based on what people are saying on their Twitter accounts. The government has gone through, I mean, I can't believe the amount of surveillance. And now they're creating an algorithm to determine if people are depressed through their tweets.
Well,
and they're going to extend it to monitor mental illness. And obviously the next extrapolation from this, I believe, is going to be, heck, you tweeted 6 messages, you are depressed, therefore we can't even allow you to think about having a concealed weapons permit or own a gun because you've tweeted these messages. I can see it coming, Dr. Shealy.
Oh, they'll put you on the drugs that make you even more depressed. Yeah, I think for a government that's bankrupt, it has long ago overstepped all conscious, reasonable activity. This government reminds me of an old O. Henry short story in which a man who was about to die was put into a hypnotic trance. So when he died, his body didn't rot. 15 years later, his body is just absolutely perfect. The hypnotist takes him out of the trance, and the body dematerializes before your eyes. Our government is bankrupt, but in a trance, and someday, when the trance is broken, it'll rot overnight.
Wow.
So there.
Wow.
And it's not a question of whether, it is only a question of when.
Dr. Shealy, there's so many people I haven't that I've talked to on the phone, in person, at meetups, at events. Nobody. I don't know anybody who is happy about their surroundings. I think back to the 1950s. It was such a nice time. It really was. And I know there were problems, and I know there was the CIA and what they were doing and the evil things that they were doing. But generally speaking, I think that was the highlight, the high point of our country. And we now have, our government is so concerned about what we might be thinking, what we might be saying, what we might be doing, that they're peering into our homes. They're listening in on our phone calls. They're saving them for perpetuity. They're saving our emails, our tweets, our Facebook transmissions. It's horrible. And what I'd like to have someone who is an expert at this or who has been studying it. What do you suggest? I'm talking to the class now, the whole class, the worldwide class. What do you suggest when we have to get our license renewed? What do we do? Do we frown? Do we scowl? How do we make ourselves harder for the system to identify us through facial recognition? What do we do? Because I'd like to have a class on that. So I'm putting that out there for our entire worldwide class.
Well, I immediately thought of Al Jolson. Remember him?
Yeah.
Maybe we should go in painting our face.
Well, yeah, and Michael Jackson wore a wide brim hat. He always covered as much of his face as he possibly could when he went out. Dr. Shealy, they are now talking about, and they probably have already done it. If they're talking about doing it, they've probably already done it. Installing cameras, recognition cameras, on store shelves. So if you go to buy cookies or something like that, or whatever it is that you're reaching forward to get, these recognition systems can now identify your sex, male, female, young, medium, older. They can identify who you are, and they're building a database of that. I mean, that's beyond the pale, is absolutely out of control. And so I'm going to start wearing disguises when I walk around. I'm not kidding. It's out of control. I used to have a haircut like Michael Landon of Little House on the Prairie. I've seen, if you look me up on the internet, you'll see that I have a shorter haircut. But I think I'm going to go back to my Michael Landon style hair to cover up as much of me as possible. Because I object to this, Dr. Shealy. One of our instructors sent me an email, and he's reminding me that I mentioned I would talk or ask you about beer bellies, why we have them. And he wants to know why we have beer bellies. Now, I don't have one yet, and I hardly ever drink beer. I'll drink it socially, but, you know, a six-pack would probably last me a year. Not because I'm against it. It's just because I don't desire consuming, you know, a lot of beer. It's just that I don't. So it's not that I'm a teetotaler, and it's not that I'm saying that people shouldn't. That's not it at all. It's just that I don't very often. So, Dr. Shealy, is it a beer belly, or is it a wheat belly, or is it just that we just eat so much that we expand?
It's a calorie belly.
Okay.
And wheat is the biggest contributor to it, and a lot of beers made with the basis of wheat. Mm-hmm. But it is total calories and lack of exercise.
Okay, so that's right. And I don't eat a lot of calories. I mean, I really don't. And I find that because I exercise on the farm, I don't think I need to eat. For some reason, I think my digestive system's working, and I don't think I need to eat as much as some people who I think their digestive system is not working as well. Is that true?
Absolutely. No question that the quality of your digestive system is a major contributor, not only to weight, but health in every aspect.
Well, let me ask you this. Every morning, almost every morning, I try to eat a large bowl of oatmeal with raisins. And I mean a large bowl. I'm talking about a large soup bowl. Is that something that you would recommend I continue or not? Because I want to make sure I have a lot of fiber, and that's one of the reasons I eat that. Is that a good thing to do since they're no longer putting radiation or radioactivity in oatmeal?
It's no different from any other food at this point. Certainly, oatmeal is one of the best foods of all the grains. Brown rice, oatmeal, and millet are the best.
Okay, so I'm doing the right thing. When we come back, Dr. Shealy, I'd like to talk about Oreo cookies. There was a study done that they're more addictive. It shows scientists say they're more addictive than cocaine, Oreo cookies, when we come back. Dr. Shealy's with us, normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. Dr. Shealy, we've thrown overboard some potential sponsors, and I guess we're about ready to do it again. Oreo cookies. Cookies are supposed to...
You know that I'm writing a book on the health benefits of 1,000 foods, and I wouldn't even put Oreo cookies in the book because I consider them total junk from start to finish.
I'm not really sure I understood how you really feel.
I know. I've got to take lessons in expressing myself. However, you know, if you want to eat one Oreo cookie a year, I wouldn't object. If you want to eat a dozen, I'd say, well, vomit.
Well, Dr. Shealy, there's a post on our website, usapreparedness.com, and it says that chocolate cookies have been found to trigger the same neurons in the brain's pleasure center as the outlawed drug, which would be cocaine. So it looks like
dark chocolate does have something called anandamide, which is a little bit of a piece of an amino acid stuck together that do induce pleasure. However, when you mix it with sugar, you avoid a lot of sugar especially. It actually destroys much of the benefit. But the taste buds become addicted very quickly, so they don't know the difference between good dark chocolate and crummy, all kinds of mixed chocolate. Milk chocolate, of course, has a lot of milk in it, a lot of sugar there, as well as additional sugar. It's all already loaded. But a 70% or more dark chocolate, 1 ounce a day, I think is good for almost everybody. But when you get up to 3 and 4 ounces, no, it becomes junk.
We have a couple cows, just a couple on our farm that are called belted galloways. And what they are is they start out with the front, the head, the legs, all the way to the midsection of the cow is black. And then there's a band of white. And then the back section of the cows, the legs, the tail, are black again. So Mrs. Finelli has these cows on the property. They belong to our neighbor. And she calls one of them Oreo, and because it looks like an Oreo. And then the other one she calls Thick Stuff because the band is a little thicker in the middle. So anyway, so we're not eating Oreos, and this post says that they are addictive. Dr. Shealy, 5 million babies are now born through the process of in vitro fertilization. That's a lot of babies. And the process started in 1978, and it has been continuing. And here's my question. Are people using this procedure of in vitro fertilization where the egg is surgically removed from the woman, fertilized with sperm, and then put back in? Are they doing that because the sperm count is down for men, or why is this happening, Dr. Shealy? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, that's part of it, and the sperm count is down by over 2/3 in the last half century. There are many problems with women as well in, being ready to be fertilized. A lot of this has to do with toxicity. Part of it has to do with nutrition. And it does carry some risks, not only to the woman, which is unequivocal, but also the percentage of babies who are going to have some defects is somewhat greater with in vitro fertilization. But it is part of today's world.
Is there anything that we can? Oh, geez, we're out of time. We come back next week. Maybe we can talk about a little bit more about what's happening with births, why we have so many birth defects, and maybe what we should do if we are considering having children. Dr. Norman Shealy, thanks so much for being with us. I really appreciate it. And class, I just had a chat yesterday with the CEO of The Survival Key. He's advertising on this broadcast, and let's see if I can get him on the air. So above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you. Thanks so much, Dr. Shealy.